In an intimate and unexpectedly emotional conversation, George Clooney sits down with Kevin Frazier to open up in a way that feels both nostalgic and deeply human, reflecting on legacy, fatherhood, aging, and the heart of his new film, J. Kelly. The movie is set to hit theaters on November 14th before streaming on Netflix on December 5th, and for George, it's more than just another project. It's a mirror to the path he's walked over 4 decades in Hollywood. Sitting in the warm studio light, he speaks with that familiar mix of charm and self-deprecation, knowing exactly how to make every story land with humor and truth. As the interview begins, Kevin Frazier points out something so many fans feel, that watching George Clooney's career has felt like watching a life unfold on screen. Decades of performances, heartbreaks, triumphs, and unforgettable characters. When Kevin quotes the film's line, "You're never alone," George grins and jokes about always feeling alone before softly returning to the real question. Does he ever pause and look back on the enormous legacy he's built? The actor shakes his head at the word legacy. He insists it's something other people define after you're gone, not something you get to shape while you're still working. But then he reveals a moment from filming J. Kelly that genuinely caught him off guard. At the end of the movie, the filmmakers included an unexpected montage using real footage from his earlier films. George Clooney says he didn't know they planned to use his real movies, and during the first take, he found himself startled, almost embarrassed, looking at his old hairstyles. Laughing about mullets, he's still shocked he survived. He jokes, wondering how he ever maintained a career through some of those looks. But beneath the humor, there's a softness. George, now 64, admits he never expected any of this. If someone asked his 21-year-old self whether he'd make it in the industry, he would have confidently said no. The odds weren't in his favor, and he knew it. The idea that 40 years later he would still be working, still relevant, and still deeply in love with what he does, it's something he cherishes with genuine gratitude. Shifting gears, Kevin Frazier brings up something fans have noticed for years. George Clooney is simply a man who wears a suit well. In J. Kelly, he once again steps into impeccably tailored looks. George laughs, acknowledging that most of the projects he works on don't offer him glamorous wardrobes, so this film was a treat. Putting on beautifully made suits reminded him of that classic movie star George persona that audiences have adored for decades. Then, in pure Clooney fashion, he undercuts the glamour with a joke about drinking being the real secret to looking good. Something he slyly warns the kids in the audience against. The conversation turns tender when George talks about aging. He recalls being in his 20s and reading about someone dying at 64, thinking they had lived a long, full life. Now at 64 himself, he shakes his head, laughing at how perspective shifts with time. Now everything is young, he says. Anyone passing away at his age is suddenly so young, a reminder of the fragility and unpredictability of life. Then comes one of the most heartwarming parts of the interview. George Clooney discussing his decades-long friendship and on-screen chemistry with Adam Sandler, his co-star in J. Kelly. He lights up describing their relationship. They've known each other for 30 years, have played countless games of basketball together, and share a connection that he describes as a love story in its own way. He admires Adam Sandler deeply, his talent, his generosity, his humor. George says this film allowed him to benefit from exceptional writing, directing, and especially acting, with Adam at the center of that excellence. Their longtime basketball tradition comes up next. For years, a famous basketball game took place at George Clooney's home. These days, though, his age is catching up to him. Every time he plays now, he gets hurt. Not sometimes, but every time. He laughs about how his wife, Amal Clooney, always checks on him afterward, usually following up with a pretty dumb comment that he, reluctantly, agrees with. Inside, he still feels 25, even if his body says otherwise. He jokes that you could slide a credit card under his vertical jump. It's that small now. The heart of the conversation, however, emerges when Kevin Frazier asks about balancing work and family, a major theme of J. Kelly. George Clooney reflects on how universal that struggle is. Whether you're a movie star or someone working any everyday job, everyone is trying to find that balance. He recalls being young and sometimes resenting moments when his parents weren't there, only to realize later that they were simply trying to work, survive, and put food on the table. Now, as a father himself, he feels that weight and responsibility every day. When asked whether certain scenes in the film, particularly those about fatherhood, hit him emotionally, George admits they did. They reminded him of those painful moments parents sometimes have with their children.